Coming up on iOS today, Rosemary and I strap on our hiking boots, we grab our gear and head outside, and would love it if you joined us. Stay tuned.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
We have just about reached the end of the Twit survey, and we don't want to miss your feedback. Go to twit.tv/survey22 to take it now. The last day to take the survey is February 28th. Hey, this helps us know who you are. It helps us better our shows and also make sure that the sponsors that we have line up with your interests. So please go take it. I promise you it'll only take a couple of minutes. Go to twit.tv/survey22. Thank you so much. This episode of iOS Today is brought to you by IT Pro TV. Are you looking to break into the world of IT? Get the introduction you need with IT Pro TV. Visit itpro.tv/twit for an additional 30% off all consumer subscriptions for the lifetime of your active subscription. Just use code TWIT30 at checkout. Ha! Hello! Welcome to iOS Today. This is the show where we talk all things iOS, watchOS, HomePod OS, TV OS, iPad OS. It's all the OSs that Apple has on offer, and we love to talk about them here on iOS Today. I am one of your hosts, Mikah Sargent.
And I am Rosemary Orchard. Hi, everyone.
Hello, Rosemary. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty well. The weather this weekend was not exactly conducive to today's topic, but that said, it gave me some pretty good ideas of where I might want to go next weekend when hopefully the weather is just a little bit better.
When the weather outside's not frightful, when the sun is so delightful. Yes, we are talking today not about remade Christmas songs, but instead about taking some trips outdoors. The weather may be starting to warm up in your area. I know there's still snow on the ground where I'm from, back in Missouri. But as we head into the March, April, May months coming up, things will start to warm, or if you live in a place where things kind of already are relatively warm, like they are here in Northern California, then it's a great time to think about different ways to get outside, get active, and become one with nature. So we thought we'd talk about that here today, and there are some pretty great apps to discuss. I think covering, kind of encompassing the whole kit and caboodle of things that you need to do while you're outside, which is really nice to not just think about kind of how and where to explore, but also to think about preparing for that exploration and what you need to make sure that you've got all of the information that you want in order to get absolutely prepared for that trip you're going to take, that adventure you're going to have. But it starts with a really fun app called Let's Roam Scavenger Hunts. You want to tell us about that?
Yeah, so this is an app I discovered relatively recently because I was looking for things to do around here, and I've grown up in this area of the UK, so I know pretty much, what's around, but I don't necessarily know all of the cool things that are around here. And so I found Let's Roam Scavenger Hunts. And they've got a whole bunch of different things. And you can see they're ordered by distance away from me. So the first one of the outdoor scavenger hunts is 18.3 miles away, which is actually not that far down the road. And they have a bridge through time. And so I can get directions to the starting location. And then I can actually check on leaderboard and all of those things, and even pre-register. You do need to sign in to pre-register. I've left myself signed out for today's show, so I could sign in with my Apple ID, text message, etc. But then you can go ahead and actually enjoy the scavenger hunt. And I think this is pretty cool just because it gives you a bunch of information about somewhere that you may think you already know, but it turns out you don't. Or if you're traveling somewhere, then it gives you a great way to find out more information about this sort of place. Now, it's also got a map view. So if I zoom out quite a bit, then I can see there's loads all over the UK. If I pan over, then unsurprisingly, there's a surprisingly high density over in the US. There's loads in Los Angeles. There's some in San Jose. I'm trying to head up towards Petaluma, and I've somehow hit Portland. So I think I went a bit too far there, Mikah.
Perhaps.
Yeah, just a little bit. But, there's quite a few around here, which I have to say is great. I think if you're looking in a populated area, you are going to find a lot of these. Of course, if you're in a less populated area, there might not be any, but you can always create your own as well to share it with other people. There's outdoor and there's indoor ones. So if you're not quite so outdoorsy, or maybe like over here in the UK this weekend, we've had pretty terrible weather and you want to do something but stay indoors, then there's some options for those as well. There's custom events, there's all sorts, and it feels pretty fun. I've very much enjoyed the scavenger hunt that I have been on this with already. So I'm pleased that it exists and it's free to download.
That is awesome. The one that I want to talk about is for the hikers among us. There are some really excellent hiking trails in the area that Anthony and I both live. There are all sorts of types of hikes in terms of difficulty, all sorts of scenes to see. And there's a really cool app that I like to use when I'm planning to go hiking called AllTrails. So AllTrails is available to download for free. It's got an in-app purchase for the Pro version, but it shows you all sorts of information based on where you are located. You can see here there's this thing called the Schellenberger Park Loop, and it has a tag that says easy. It's got a rating. It's got the estimated time and the estimated length that will take for you to take this trail. And you can create a profile. As you see, I do have the Pro account. I believe it's $30 one-time purchase. It may be a subscription. If it's a subscription, then I probably purchased it once, and it's like an annual subscription or something like that I'll get to keep for a while. But you don't need the Pro version. Even without the Pro version, you do get access to the trails. It's just you get a little bit more of the feature set if you do get the Pro version, including saving trails and having them available offline whenever you are using it. So I have mine here, and then I've got trails that are saved, my favorites, my maps. And what I love is that there's a navigation option. So with the navigation option, you can go on a trail and it will use the GPS. So to be clear, there are different ways that your phone will map something out for you whenever it is trying to determine where you are, where you're trying to go. Using both GPS and cell tower triangulation to determine your location. But with the hiking map, this is actually going to use the GPS itself, because you will be in a place. It's likely that if you're hiking somewhere where there aren't a bunch of metal and concrete buildings in the way. And so the GPS is very helpful to get that figured out. You can see that this was a trail that my partner and I have taken before. It's called the Sky Trail and Bear Valley Loop, which is at Point Reyes National Seashore. It was a 10.5-mile trail. They said it would take about 5 hours and 22 minutes, and the rating was moderate. And when you tap start, it will show you the path that you're going to take. It will show you your planned elevation, so you can get information about how high and how low you're going to be, and then the actual elevation based on the trail that you took. There's a built-in compass to make sure that you get everything figured out, a timer, so you can see kind of what you're doing. And then it has information for if you want to change the route while you're along the trail, to get a little bit more information about the navigation, sort of where you are at the current point, which I guess we'll probably have to blur there. But this has all sorts of different types of mapping as well. You can see that there's the AllTrails version, which is a special version for AllTrails in particular. It's got some information that you might not have otherwise, a satellite version, a terrain version, all sorts of different options here. But then also you can look at waypoints along the way, and air quality, which is very nice, weather, heat map, pollen, and light pollution. So if you were going to go, and you can see these are pro features, if you were going to go stargazing, you'd know what's the best place to be doing this stargazing. And it even has information along here about what trails are closed or open. It looks like the Arc Rock Trail is closed, but that makes sense because that is a private trail. So this is a really handy way to not only find new ways to go hiking, but to be able to make sure you're following the right trail as you go along it. Because I went to Point Reyes not too long ago, and we hiked all the way out to the Alamere Falls Tidefall, and on our way back accidentally took a wrong trail and ended up adding like 3 miles to what ended up being a 16 to 18 mile hike that was only supposed to be 12 to 13 miles. So it ended up it kind of going a way we weren't expecting. So if I had AllTrails at the time, had downloaded the map and had it available for offline use, and then if it was then able to use the GPS signal to help me figure out where I was and where I was trying to go, that would have been great. But AllTrails is super awesome. Again, available in the App Store for free. Some extra cool features that you can get if you pay for the Pro version. So that is AllTrails. All right. I'm excited about this next one that you're going to talk about, Rosemary. Tell us about Seek by iNaturalist.
Yeah, so I don't know how many people go outside when they're, outside and look at something and go, I wonder what that flower is, or what is that bird, or various other things. And Seek by iNaturalist aims to try and help you answer these questions. And you can do it with the big camera button at the bottom of the screen, where you can go ahead after you've granted it access to your photo library. Then it gives you a little warning, reminding you don't eat things that you find in the wild, respect other living beings, be aware of your surroundings, stay safe. And then you can take a picture. Now, I'm not going to take a picture because this is a keyboard. It's not an organism or a part of the environment. So I'll just tap on the close in the top left. But if I was outside and there was a bird I was going to take a picture of, or a plant, then I could take a picture of it and it would try to help me identify it. But not only that, it's going to use this information combined with your GPS location to try and put data together for scientists so that they can actually figure out what kinds of wildlife are we seeing in what areas of the world? Because, it's pretty nice to know that, hey, the European robin, which is endangered, is actually still thriving around here. I mean, it's not doing as well as it used to, but it's doing better than it could be. The mallard, for example, you can tap on it and you can get more information. You'll find out if something is native or not native to your locale. You can see a range map of approximately where it would be, a full taxonomy of exactly where it falls in the hierarchy or the family tree of animals, and when you're most likely to see something. There's also notifications, so you can do challenges. And one of the challenges here is to live a life on the edges. So you need to find a class amphibia, something in the class amphibia, and something that is, I'm not going to be able to pronounce this, Mikah. It's order Charandriformes. Shorebirds and allies. My Latin is not doing so great today. So I should go out and try and find those. And when I've completed those, there'll be another challenge. Now, I think this is a great app for parents who've got kids who are kind of interested in nature, but maybe not so interested in the whole actually walking places. Or, you yourself, if you're interested in nature, because it's a great way to try and, it's Pokemonifying, going outside a little bit. Of course, there's also Pokemon Go, which is another way to get outside, but this one perhaps brings kids a little bit more in touch with real nature as opposed to, virtual nature.
Absolutely. All right. That's, I think, a lovely one. I've used that in the past whenever we were out and about. I've got there's a file that I save on my iPhone, and I save it locally so that it's always available and I don't have to re-download it. And it has photos of poison oak and poison ivy and different snakes and different information about specific kinds of snakes that are venomous versus not venomous, and other kind of critters, and warnings to look out for. That was a thing that I failed to mention. One of the things that I like about the Trails app that I mentioned earlier is that people rate the trails, they can also comment on them. And so you get lots of warnings saying, whoa, don't take this trail. It hasn't been cleaned up in a long time. And there's poison oak all along the, left side of the trail. Or it'll say, don't stray from the trail because 2 feet out on either side, there's a bunch of poison oak, or all those kinds of warnings. So it's really great to know. And then that way, if you have an animal with you too, that you make sure you keep the animal on the trail if that needs to be the case. Or we were hiking this trail and ended up, two of us ended up finding ticks on us later or something like that, is also a good handy feature, as well as sending a shiver down my spine as I had to say that out loud. Ugh, I hate ticks. Anyway, so all of that can be really good, both in the case of the app that you showed, where you're identifying species and different critters and plants and things like that, and then just having that information in the first place. So this next one is fun. Adventure Lab, with a big old trademark circle.
Yes. It's a registered copy mark. So Adventure Lab is a geocaching app. Now, there's lots of geocaching apps out there, and this is just one of the many. It is free, which is, of course, a definite advantage. And for anybody who's not done geocaching before or not heard of it, the idea is that something gets hidden at a specific location and its point gets marked on the map. And then you go to the location, you find the thing, and depending on what it is, you maybe take it and replace it with something else, or you just look at it and you get a clue towards the next part of the puzzle. And there are loads of different ones all over the world. If I zoom out on this map, you'll see that there is quite a concentration around here. But if I zoom in on, say, I'm going to just try Paris, and then I can tap search the area, it's going to search for adventures, and bam, loads of adventures all over Paris. So you can go on adventures with geocaching wherever you like. Now, I'm just going to search in this area again because there's quite a few around in the area near where I live. And there was one that I found earlier. Of course, I'm not going to be able to find it now because I'm looking for it. But here it is, University of Bristol Adventure. Now, this one is a great one. It's only got 5 locations. It should take you anywhere between 0 minutes and half an hour to complete. They've got time estimations on there. It's 34 kilometers west of me. And I can see those different locations marked on a map because they're non-sequential. So I could go to them in any order. And if I wanted to, I can tap start, and then I can just go off and search for these. Now, you should be aware that if you are doing this, then you need to follow the rules of whichever adventure that you're going on. So when I tap start, it will tell me where to go. And then it might give me some other information as well, depending on the adventure itself. But it's got reviews of different adventures. It's got loads of adventures all over the world. And it's pretty fun. You know, you can end up finding all sorts of cool things. You know, I didn't realize that there used to be an airport approximately 33 kilometers west of me until 1957. That was a little while before I was born, but I don't ever remember my parents or anybody in the family talking about that. But it's pretty great to know that you can go out and enjoy all of these fun things for free.
Yes. All right, folks, I think we're going to take a quick break before we come back with lots of other great apps to get you outside, get a pep in your step, and get you to breathe in that cool or warm air, depending on where you are, or maybe hot air. It could be hot where you are. I don't know. Wherever you are, stepping outdoors is what we're doing here today. Maybe I should have recorded this episode outside now that I think about it. I could have done it on my balcony. Alas, I did not have that foresight, so I will just have to do things this way. All right, let's take a break. I want to tell you about IT Pro TV, who are bringing you this episode of iOS Today. Look, if there is one thing that everyone knows about IT, it's that it's constantly evolving. As an IT professional, you need to learn and apply new skills to updates and changes so you don't fall behind in the IT world. It's super easy to fall behind. IT Pro TV learns about the changes and gets new content to you ASAP, so that you don't have to worry about it. You're going to already be ahead of the game and learning faster than the competition. Here's an example. They just released the new CompTIA Pen Test Plus course. You can join edutainers Daniel Lowry and Ronnie Wong to learn penetration testing, vulnerability assessment, and management skills in this 18-hour course by IT Pro TV. Yes, 18 hours of content. Incredible. Learn and get certified in IT in a way that works with your schedule and is entertaining. That's the important thing. That is what sets us apart. Super entertaining while you're doing it. That's So nice. They have 7 studios, and they're filming Monday through Friday. Their courses go from the studio to their course library in 24 hours, so you know they're always up to date, and they make sure you're prepared for your exams with their virtual labs and practice tests. IT Pro TV's monthly theme for February is hacking. Oh man, I might have to check these ones out. Check out their next webinar on February 24th in 2 days as we record the show at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Starting your ethical hacking career, a pen tester's guide on featuring Philip Wiley, author of the book, The Pen Tester Blueprint, starting a career as an ethical hacker. Don't forget, your IT team needs to level up and enjoy the journey. Check out an IT Pro TV business plan for your team today. If you're looking to break into the world of IT, get the introduction you need with IT Pro TV. Visit itpro.tv/twit for an additional 30% off all consumer subscriptions. And by the way, that's for the lifetime of your active subscription. All you have to do is use code TWIT30. That's itpro.tv/twit. Use code TWIT30 for an additional 30% off the lifetime of your active subscription. IT Pro TV. Build or expand your IT career and enjoy the journey. Thanks so much to IT Pro TV for sponsoring this week's episode of iOS Today. Looking forward to checking out all of the great hacking stuff that they've got here for February. All right, so Rosemary, you know, I got to tell you, I really do love my sofa. I love to sit on my sofa, watch some shows, play a couple of little puzzly type games on my iPhone, pet my dogs, and just sort of hang out. So what do I do if I want to get more active and I want to sort of keep a sustained approach to getting more active, getting fit? Is there anything out there that could help me with that?
Yeah, so there is a great program out there called Couch to 5K. You can find all the details for something like this online. Of course, if you do have any health issues, you should double check with a medical practitioner before you just launch into something like this. But I personally have used the Couch to 5K program a few times over the years, and I've always really enjoyed it because what you do is you set it up. And so I have just gone through a reset the app, and I'm just in the final stages of setting everything up. So I'll put in some of my information. I'm approximately that active, and I will not get any reminders. Thank you very much. I'm very good at ignoring running on my own without having reminders to make me feel guilty. But the Couch to 5K program is essentially that you start with a very small amount of actual running, and then you progress to actually running 5K, as the name implies. So when you go on run number 1, it will walk you through what you need to do. So you listen through headphones. You can listen to music at the same time using the NHS app, which is the one that I'm using. And it shows you in advance what you're going to do. So you do a 5-minute walk to warm up, then you run for 60 seconds, you walk for 90 seconds, and you repeat that 7 times, followed by running for 60 seconds, and then you cool down with a 5-minute walk. And this increases every single week. What I've found is the way that this app in particular works, and there's a couple of great ones out there, but the way this app works is that it works with whatever music you're listening to. Now, there are some apps out there that want you to listen to their own playlist because they've got their own playlist set up. And I find those drive me crazy because sometimes I want to listen to podcasts or I want to listen to a specific playlist, whatever it is. And it's nice to be able to choose whatever it is I actually want to listen to and have that linked in. So they do have some music playlist recommendations. They've got some articles on things that can help you out. But what I really like is actually just the running part of it, where it just tells you what to do and you get on with it and you do it. You can choose from a number of different people to train you. And they've got a couple of people who are well-known throughout the UK. Of course, different apps will have different people, but I found this one works very well for me. And of course, it's free to download, which makes it even better. And so I recommend anybody who's looking to maybe get a little bit more fit, have a look at some of the Couch to 5K apps out there. And if you can download the NHS one wherever you are, then go for it. It's free.
All right. I am so pleased that I was looking at the show notes this morning and saw two entries that were part of the show notes that I'm really glad that you included here for being mindful of accessibility concerns. If someone wants to go out and about and they want to make sure that it's an accessible location, you've got a few suggestions for apps that we can use to be aware of that.
Yeah, unfortunately, the first one I'm going to mention, I'll just do briefly because it is UK only, but I'm hoping that some of our our listeners and watchers will chime in with some great recommendations. This one is from the UK. It's called AccessAble. They have several ones in partnerships with various universities as well, which I really like about this company. And you can essentially look for different places with different accessibility needs. So you can set your own accessibility symbols. So you can specify what you need. For example, you may need level access and automatic doors or no doors. You may require on-site parking or off-site parking, blue badge bays, that's accessible parking bays over here, etc. And so when you specified things like that, so if you need a baby changing facility, for example, then when you go and look maybe for pubs and bars, then it will tell you about the places nearby that meet those accommodations that you need. And of course, this is something that you need to keep in mind if you do have any accessibility needs or a baby that needs changing, that you want to be able to find whatever it is that you need, but still enjoy going outside. Now, the next one, I'm unfortunately not going to be able to demo because it will give away exactly where I live. So we're going to have to rely on the website for this. But it's Seeing AI from Microsoft. And I love this idea because it will tell you what it is that you're seeing around you in the world. And for anybody who has an accessibility issue related to their vision, it's just magical, so that you will be able to get out and about and you can do things like identify money without actually having to be able to see it or pre-market or whatever it is you need to do to be able to do all of these things. And it should also work outside in nature as well, helping you identify different hills and things like that. It's not perfect, but it is pretty great and it's free. And it's from Microsoft, so they are constantly trying to improve it, which is always a good sign. And I know we've got quite a few listeners of the show who've got various accessibility needs. So I would also love to hear from them if they have any recommendations for apps that they can use to help them get outside and enjoy the world.
Absolutely. And I will give an honorable mention to an app called, called Be My Eyes, which I think I've featured as an app cap before on the show. Be My Eyes is an app where folks can ask someone to help them figure something out that's going on around them. So this isn't going to work. This isn't going to be a great app if you are sort of hiking on a trail where there's very little signal. That obviously would be an issue. But if you are going on, if you're going out and you're hiking on a trail that is pretty close to civilization, so to speak, or you've got signal even whenever you're out on a hiking trail up in the forest. What Be My Eyes does is it lets folks with low to no vision video call with someone who is a volunteer. Anyone can download the app. You can sign up to be a volunteer or a person who needs to use the app. And then what happens is a person who needs to use the app will put out the call, and then a bunch of different volunteers around the world get notified that somebody needs help. And so and this has happened before, I've signed up for this. And so I got a notification and I answered it, and somebody just needed help picking out the right color shirt that they were looking for. So they held up a few shirts and said, could you tell me which one is the orange shirt or something like that? And then they asked me if I felt the shirt looked good with what they were wearing. And so it's a really great way to be able to help people, which I really enjoyed when people had called and I got to answer and help them pick something out. And then also it's a great way if you do need help to be able to reach out to other people. So like I said, anyone can download it. I feel like everyone should download it and sign up either as a person who wants to help people or as a person who needs this to help people. Of course, as it should be, it's free in the App Store to download. And I just think it's great. That's Be My Eyes. All right, let's move over to some things we should be looking at if we are going to be outside, breathing in that air. And it starts with IQAir air quality. This is a really interesting app because it makes use of publicly available information by way of the different weather services that will publish pollen counts, but also IQAir makes a bunch of different or I should say, they have access to a bunch of different individual sensors that exist in a given area. So if you buy an IQAir weather station or air quality monitoring device, you have the option to make some of that information available to people who use the IQAir app. And so it can give you localized information for an area, which is very handy. I have IQAir installed on a lot of different devices, just so that it. In fact, I think it's one of my favorite widgets that I have on my on the different screens for my iPad and for my iPhone. Do you use IQAir?
I have used IQAir in the past. Here where I live in the UK, fortunately, I seem to be far enough out in the countryside that I don't really run into issues with the air quality. That said, I should reinstall it just because it's always good to keep an eye on these things, though I am using one of the other options that I've got listed in the show notes to keep an eye on some of that information.
Which one's that one?
Well, I'm actually using the weather app for this, of all things, because the weather app has got a whole bunch of information. And what it will do is it warns you when the air pollution is high. And if you scroll down, and this is the redesigned weather app in iOS 14.15, then you can tap see more and it will show you what the air quality index where you are is like. And it tells you what the primary pollutant is, whether or not you should be concerned about your health if you're going outside, and so on and so forth. And this is localized to you. Now, the weather app may not have this in every location, but it does have it in the US and the UK and Canada. I believe it also has it in Australia, but it is very nice to know that this information is right here in the app that a lot of people are already using because it's pre-installed on their iPhones.
Nice. There's another app that I like to use specifically for the allergy information because that is something that I struggle with and have in almost every place I've lived. There's a free version that you can download, but there's also a version for $2.99, and the app is called My Pollen Forecast. But there's My Pollen Forecast Pro, which is the one that I have installed, and it is specifically made for you to track pollen in a given area. So you can see right now it's using the Apple Maps interface to show the location, and it shows at the bottom medium pollen count. I can choose forecasts, and you can see what the different types of air particulates there are going to be. So in this case, we've got ash, juniper, and alder. And tomorrow again, ash, juniper, and alder. So if you know that you're allergic to specific tree pollen, then you know for sure what that's going to look like. It shows you different information because humidity affects the pollen count. Temperature can affect the pollen counts depending on how it interplays with humidity. And then there's a diary option. So what this does is it lets you every day, if you choose to, you can mark and say, on today, my allergies were really fired up. On today, my allergies are really fired up. And then a week later, you could say, oh, no, my allergies weren't so bad today. And then it'll start to show you trends. So you could end up finding, when there's oak pollen in the air, that's when my allergies very much flare up. Or, when there's elm pollen in the air, that's when my allergies really flare up. The app also has notifications. So I think even just last night, I got a notification on my Apple Watch that was saying, hey, you might want to prepare yourself for tomorrow because the pollen count's going to be a little higher than it has been lately. And in fact, this morning, I've noticed a little bit of itchiness around my nose and a little bit of itchiness in my throat that I didn't have yesterday. And so if that's placebo, sure, but I imagine that it is the fact that there are some allergies going on that I have is particularly good to know, just to prepare myself as needed. And so then I can not worry, oh my goodness, is this something much worse than just allergies? Because I know that's been a thing that's on everybody's mind for sure. All right. I don't think we can get through an episode of iOS Today focused on nature and outside without talking about the best weather app in existence, in my opinion, which is Carrot Weather. It's just got so much information that you can get from Carrot Weather. That's what makes Carrot Weather so awesome, is all of the different weather data points. But also, I would imagine, Rosemary, that the automation ability of Carrot Weather is something that you dig.
Yes, I do love the fact that Carrot has got great things like shortcut support and how everything just works with the app, because it really is great at allowing you to choose whichever source you want for data as well. So for example, I have a NetAtmo weather station. I can actually use that with the app to get hyper localized weather data when I'm at home. But then if I go to my parents' house, well, actually, I'm getting them a NetAtmo as well for their wedding anniversary. Don't tell them yet. Okay. But when I go over there, then I'll be able to switch over to their NetAtmo. But then when I visit my grandparents who don't have NetAtmos, then it will, of course, use whatever local data that I've set to fall back to. And what I really like about Carrot is the fact that I can customize everything I see in the app. So I've got this set up. So I've got the UV index, which is pretty important if you're going outside. Don't forget, sunscreen is important, people. I can see whether or not it's likely to rain and so on. And of course, I can go in and look at a more detailed view, and I can customize this as well. And if you have Premium Ultra, then you can get the air quality index and air quality. And if you're in the US, there is also a pollen count as well. Unfortunately, that information is not available outside the US, but air quality and air quality index both are if you're a Premium Ultra member, which I believe is, I want to say $29.49 a year. I was going to demo this in the app, but I'm running the beta of this, my gosh. So I was not able to switch over in time. Unfortunately, I forgot to uninstall and reinstall the app before the show. But it is great that you've got all this information. And of course, if you've got one of the Carrot subscriptions, then you can get push notifications before it rains as well, or before there's a negative weather event, which means that you will know. So for example, you go out, you're going out for the day, and then as you get somewhere, you get a notification that's going to start raining in 5 minutes. That gives you enough time to go find a cafe and, hunker down. And then you'll get a notification that rain's going to stop in, say, 5-10 minutes. And so you can then get the bill and pay, and then off you go again. And you can make the most of your time out and avoid the less unpleasant side of the weather with this app, which is one of the reasons why I love it.
And then you have one final one that is particular to your side of the pond.
Yes.
Do you want to tell us about this one?
Yeah, I felt like I really ought to mention, especially considering the terrible weather we've had this weekend, the Met Office weather application. It is a free app to download, and it will give you weather information for your area, of course, as you would expect. And it's very good at giving you warnings. So, for example, I can see that there are warnings in force for Scotland and some of the northern parts of the UK, as well as Northern Ireland tomorrow morning. And then if I pop back, then it's a very similar situation on Thursday. I can scroll through into the future, but it would show me in that list view if there were any weather warnings for the current time, and it will just tell me exactly what those mean. So I can look and see, okay, there's wind and snow warnings up in Scotland. Well, I don't really need to worry about that. I live in the south. It's nice and warm down here. We don't need to worry about snow pretty much ever, unfortunately. Yay for global warming. But it does mean that I can get all that information. And also I can see things like the forecast of rainfall for the next 6 and 24 hours and so on and so forth. They've got some pretty cool maps that you can look at. You can look at surface pressure versus rain and so on and so forth. And if you want to get a little bit nerdy about the weather, then you can, sit there and watch the rain forecast change over time, which is what my phone is currently showing. So there's not that big a change, but as we go past midnight, apparently it does progress a little bit further south.
Alrighty, folks. Up next, it is time for the news. We've got news to talk about, and it starts with some obsolescence. The first iPad with a lightning connector has now reached obsolescence, which means that, yes, I just checked the clock on my age, and I too have reached obsolescence. The fourth generation iPad, it was released in 2012. And it is now obsolete. This is when Apple ends up sort of retiring a product. It puts it in the vintage and obsolete Apple products category. And when it goes to that area, then it's very unlikely that you're going to be able to get any kind of support in terms of warranty and those kinds of things on it. It's likely out of the service programs and all that kind of stuff. So that fourth generation iPad, which was released in 2012, is now obsolete. That one has a lightning connector on the bottom of it. It has the home button. It's a very old school iPad with huge bezels. And yeah, it's hard. I think I had that iPad. If I remember
I did
correctly.
not have that iPad because this was the iPad. This was the iPad 4. And it came out about 6 months after the iPad 3, which was almost identical, except for the fact it had a 30-pin connector. And oh boy, was the internet upset when the 4 was released. I had the 3. I was also not the most pleased person in the world, I have to admit. But the good news is I still love my iPads. And even though I'm now in the land of the USB-C iPad, I still have a little bit of fondness left for the old Lightning connector iPads. And of course, my phone's still using a Lightning connector, but it's been around for 10 years. It's pretty good going for an iPad, I have to say.
Indeed. All right. iOS 15.4 will make its way to iPhones soon. Not quite time for it yet, but soon. And 9to5Mac, in sort of installing the betas and checking those out, noticed that there was a new prompt that exists in iOS 15.4, encouraging users to check out their Emergency SOS settings. So Emergency SOS is a set of features, we'll say, in the iPhone that will help you if you are in a situation. I would show you what the screen looks like, but it's got phone numbers of my emergency contacts in it. So I won't do that. But you set your emergency contacts in the app, and then what it lets you do is trigger an emergency SOS. There are a couple of ways to do this. So it says, press and hold the side button and either volume button to make an emergency call. In certain regions, you may need to specify an emergency service to dial. That would be kind of terrible if you're in the middle of an emergency. And then, of course, auto call requires a SIM card. You don't have to have an active cellular plan, but you do need to have a SIM card in there. There are a couple of options, including call with hold. It says if you press and hold the side and volume buttons, the emergency SOS slider appears. If you continue to hold them, a countdown begins and an alert sounds. When the countdown ends, iPhone calls emergency services. So that is very handy if you're in a situation with, if you're in an emergency and another person is the emergency, they're the person that's affecting you, being able to sort of slyly hold the iPhone with those buttons pressed is a very handy thing to be able to do. There's also call with 5 presses. If you rapidly press the side button, the big button, 5 times, it will start a countdown and then sound an alert. When the countdown ends, iPhone calls emergency services. Now, along with that, you can add emergency contacts that can also be notified should you trigger emergency SOS. I've got 3 contacts in here, and that information is available for them to then get a notification about what's going on. And then last but not least is an option to toggle on and off countdown sound. It says play a warning sound while emergency SOS is counting down to call emergency services. So you may want to, turn that off or keep it on, depending on if you've ever accidentally triggered emergency SOS, which I have done before. ScooterX has included a great link in the show notes for using emergency SOS on your iPhone. And by show notes, I definitely meant chat. I don't know why I said show notes. And it has a guide showing you how emergency SOS works. So this is just a way to give people the ability, if they did not know about the emergency SOS feature, to kind of bring that forth and say, hey, this feature's there. You can check it out. You can use it, and it can help you in an emergency situation. There's some news that Apple Pay is expanding to more areas, including France. And by Apple Pay, I mean Apple Pay Transit. So this is a specific type of Apple Pay where you can use your Apple Pay device, be it an Apple Watch or an iPhone, to pay for transit in a given area. Not too terribly long ago, Apple added the Clipper card, which is the card in sort of the San Francisco Bay Area, to be able to use public transit. And so that is available via Apple Pay. They also have that now expanding in France so that you can use the transit system there. Let's cover just a couple of more of these. Do you want to tell us about the Authenticator app and how now it is facing some copycats in the App Store?
Yeah, so this is mostly just a recommendation to all the people watching and listening to the show, of course, are the smart people who are going to double check when they download an app called Authenticator that they're planning on putting password details into, that it's actually from somebody smart and sensible like Microsoft or Google or Authy, which is well known, and you can check whether or not it's the right one. But there is a creator somebody who's created an app called Authenticator, and it's now being copied, and people are charging $3.99 a week to use this, all sorts of terrible things. So basically, please double check when you download any application that you intend to store authentication or personal or secure data in, and make sure that it's actually from somebody reputable. And if in doubt, go with the good old Google/Microsoft option there, because it's worth keeping that data safe.
Absolutely. Alrighty, folks, I can hear the music. That means it's time for Shortcuts Corner. Welcome to Shortcuts Corner. This is the part of the show where you write in with your shortcuts questions and requests, and Rosemary Orchard, the shortcuts expert, provides some answers. Our first shortcuts request comes from Marco. Marco, I believe, emailed us and then also sent an Instagram direct message. Really wanted some help with this. So thank you for tuning in, Marco, to watch the show in the first place. And thank you for this interesting request, because I think that this will end up being something that other people will go, you know what? I'd actually like that for myself. Marco wrote, I was wondering if you could help me. I'm having trouble creating a very simple shortcut automation with Toolbox Pro. Basically, I would like a specific audio to play when I connect my phone to power, but only if it is connected to a specific Bluetooth device. So what it sounds like Marco is hoping for is a way to play music or to play audio based on what device it is connected to via Bluetooth when it's plugged into power. I think this is one of those XY problem things where we wonder what Marco is actually talking about. To me, it sounds like what the problem that Marco might be trying to solve is when I'm in my car, I want to plug in my phone and have it play specific audio because it's connected to the car's Bluetooth stereo. Mm-hmm. And so that, I wonder if that's the XY kind of situation going on here versus the way that Marco is explaining it where it's more vague. So anyway, you want to tell us first about Toolbox Pro before we get into a shortcut that could help out here?
Yes. So Toolbox Pro is a great app for iOS where you can get extra tools that help you create even better shortcuts. So Toolbox Pro gives you options like checking whether or not your device is in light and dark mode, or doing on-screen OCR, that brilliant scanning feature built into iOS. Get it as a shortcuts action and more. And it allows you to do a whole bunch of things that you would like to do with your phone that you would think that you could do in shortcuts, but you can't with just native shortcuts. And what's even better, it's the creator, Alex Hay, not only is a lovely person, is genuinely excited when Apple Sherlocks him by implementing one of the features that he's added to Toolbox Pro. Because, for example, before you could finally edit reminders in shortcuts, you could do it with Toolbox Pro. Those actions are still there, partially because people are using them and he doesn't want to take them away from the people who are using them. And secondly, because they're a little bit more powerful. So that might solve some problems that some people think that they've run into with shortcuts with Toolbox Pro, which is a free app to download. Lots of the actions are free. And then there's an in-app purchase to unlock the rest of them. So in order to solve Marcus's problem, we do need to use Toolbox Pro because we need to get details of the current output device of the audio. And if we do that with Toolbox Pro, then there's this great action called Get Details about Current Audio Output Device, which funnily enough does exactly what we need. And then what we can just do is pop in an if statement, and then we need to use the variable from the Get Details about Current Audio Output Device. And I'm just going to add another if in here and show people how I did that, because to start with, it shows us connections, not name. So what you need to do is tap on this. And then if you scroll down or swipe up the view that pops up, then you'll see a bunch of different information, such as the name or its preferred data source or its type, whether or not it can handle voice calls, and so on. And we just want the name. So if you select that and then you close, then you've got the name, and then you can set your condition to is, and then you need to type in the name of your speaker. And that's all you do. So you say, get details about the current audio output device. If the name is this thing, then play the music. This is a shortcut the final piece of the puzzle that you'll need to make everything work is a personal automation. And you'll want this for when you connect to power. So I'm going to go, when my iPhone is connected to power, then run my shortcut. Oops, if I could spell run, this would be much better. There we go, run shortcut. And then you select your shortcut. And I have to remember what I called this now because, of course, this sorts it in alphabetical order, which is wonderful. And I'll go with the if car audio connected because this is something we've actually talked about on the show before, Mikah, where we've had this option. And I shared both the car audio shortcut as well as one that will get the information as to which speaker you're connected to and copy that to your clipboard to make setting this up a little bit easier. So fingers crossed, Marco. That does the trick. And don't forget to check the previous episodes. I'll see if I can find which one that was and put a link to it in the show notes as well, because I do remember creating that one and it feels like it's worth sharing it again.
Indeed. That's nice. All right, Marco, there you go. Let's move on to James. James writes, hello, Mikah and Rosemary. I have been a listener for many years and finally have a question. Awesome, James. Thank you for listening. After being in our home for a year, I am wanting to get some HomeKit-enabled devices since all family members have an iPhone, the spouse and I have Apple Watches, and the house has 3 Apple TVs. I am primarily interested in smart light switches and motion sensors to trigger them since my kids and spouse love to leave lights on in the stairway and garage mainly. We don't have any connected devices and I am open to all suggestions, but I would like to get into the least amount of ecosystems as possible to cut down on confusion and multiple apps for each product. Thank you, James from Jacksonville, North Carolina. Rosemary, the one that you included for US, I'll talk about because I love this one. And it is one that I recommend to anyone who either owns their home or lives in a home where they have the ability to at least switch out the light switches if they want to. And this is the Lutron Caseta line of switches. Lutron Caseta is a HomeKit-enabled line of Wi-Fi connected switches made by Lutron. And there are all sorts. There are ones that work for dim lights that can dim, so they have a dimmer option. They also have ones that are specifically made for fans. They also have ones that are made for just straight up light switches and everything in between. And what's great about the Lutron Caseta line of switches is that they all work with the bridge that is connected to your router, your Wi-Fi router. And some people would say like, oh, but I don't want to have to deal with a bridge. But when you deal with a bridge, the good thing about that is that bridge is entirely, completely, and wholly devoted to communicating with the devices that it is designed with which it is designed to work. So that means that you're not going to have a bunch of crosstalk and weirdness going on because you have a bridge that specifically is just telling those devices what to do and when. That means that these things work immediately, which is what you want when it comes to having lighting automation in your home. Now, as Rosemary points out in the show notes, you do need to make sure that you have a neutral wire if you get one of the non-dimming switches from the Lutron Caseta line. The Lutron Caseta's dimming switches, I am not an electrician, and so I don't know why it's able to not have to do with that, to deal with a neutral wire. But for some reason, the dimming versions, I imagine it's because there's more components that are built into it in order to be able to handle the dimming. They do not have the neutral wire, but definitely check, follow the necessary steps and safety protocols to check if you've got a neutral wire in your wall, especially if you want to use non-dimming ones. Because so in the home that I lived in Springfield, Missouri, I used my Lutron Caseta line, and I was able to, the fan it was a fan in most rooms with lights that were connected to, that were part of the fan unit, the fan outlet. And the electrician wired them separately so that there were 2 switches on most walls, one to control the fan and one to control the lighting. Unfortunately, here in Petaluma, in my townhome, the different lighting things that are in multiple rooms are both a fan and a light, just like they were in Springfield, but the electrician did not wire them separately. So the wall switch has just one switch that turns on both the fan and the lights. So I cannot use a dimmer switch in those places because it would then send less power to the fan and the lights together, which would keep the fan from working as it's supposed to. So just be aware about all of that before you sort of make your pick. But what I can say is with all certainty, I absolutely recommend in the United States the Lutron Caseta line of HomeKit-enabled switches, in-wall switches. They're fantastic. And then, Rosemary, you have some other options if you are in different places.
Yes. So if you're in Europe and Australia, then check out the Legrand range, which are a partnership between Legrand and Netatmo, which you might have heard me mention in partnership with Kara before. And they have a whole bunch of different both light switches and wall sockets that you can put in your wall, which are then smart. And these use the Zigbee protocol, which, as Mikah mentioned before, a hub is great. Another great advantage of a hub is it means that everything is on your local network. And that means that if your internet goes down, your light switches still work. So your motion sensor will talk to the hub, which talks to the light switch. There's no phoning home out over the internet to make sure that things actually happen when they're supposed to. Another recommendation for the UK is Lightwave RF. This is a Z-Wave or Z-Wave product. They are sold actually in the Apple Store here in the UK. I believe they're also available in various parts of Europe. I remember them being available in Austria. But those ones are really lovely. They're a high quality product. And then, of course, there's a recommendation for everyone everywhere, which is the Aqara range. They are surprisingly cheap. I have an Aqara light switch in my kitchen, and this one works really well. So, of course, here in the UK, my light switches are, well, usually it's a square plate with a small rectangular switch in it. I've actually replaced the one in my kitchen with just a large bounce plate because I pretty much never touch it. But it's great. They work over the Zigbee protocol. You'll need an Aqara hub, but they have neutral and no neutral options as well. So it's worth looking into. My home here in the UK did not have a neutral, so I had to look for something without a neutral, and I was able to find one that works with the light in my kitchen because, of course, the light in my kitchen, just to really round things off, is not dimmable. And, of course, if you have non-dimmable lights, then you're going to need to make sure that you buy a light switch that is on-off or replace the light as well.
Nice. All right. Up next is feedback, and then we'll round things out with our App Cap segment. All right. Some feedback from Bob. Bob writes in, "Hi, I hope you can help with this. I've researched this on Apple, Reddit, and any place I could find, but no answer. I need a location reminder to display on CarPlay on my 2018 Mazda CX-5. When I get close to home after a bicycle ride, I'd like a reminder to display. Let me find. Now I've lost my place. I'd like a reminder to display that I have the bicycle on the roof rack of my vehicle before I drive into my garage. I've created a location reminder in the stock Reminders app and also in a third-party app called Alarmed. Both work fine when I'm walking back to my house. However, when my iPhone 12 is plugged into CarPlay, I get no display and no sound in the Mazda's CarPlay display. If I look at my phone, I can see a notification, but it doesn't have sound. The whole purpose of CarPlay is to avoid having to look at the phone. With the new focus mode, the built-in driving mode has no option to add an allowed app to notify while other focus modes do. If I create my own custom focus, there's no way I can see to make it CarPlay aware. Am I missing something, or has Apple dropped the ball on this? Thanks, Bob." It sounds like there is an option to do this.
Yeah. So when I first got Bob's message, I was curious because I thought I see reminders pop up on my screen when I'm driving around. Like, this is a thing. This happens to me. What's different? So I went diving through the settings. I went diving through the internet, and eventually in the deepest, darkest corner of Reddit, which actually, fortunately for me, was the Apple subreddit or CarPlay. I don't remember which one. So it wasn't that deep or dark. I found somebody who said, "Don't forget, check settings, notifications, reminders. There's a show in CarPlay option." So I would suggest, Bob, make sure that this is enabled. And I would also suggest that you set your banner style to persistent rather than temporary so that you are less likely to miss something pop up on screen. Now, unfortunately, in my experience, it doesn't tend to make a noise. And that is possibly because my phone is in silent mode. So I did try to remember to put my phone off silent the other day, except I then got in the car and immediately put my phone on silent and put it on charge. And it wasn't until I was driving half the way to where I was going that I went, oh yeah, I wanted to see whether or not I got an audible alert, but I now can't reach my phone to safely turn it back off of silent to check whether or not this happens. So unfortunately, I was unable to completely test that, but this does mean you get reminders appearing on your in-car display, and you will then be notified when there is something to remember, like your bike on the roof rack, so that you don't drive into the garage, which I presume would be a bad thing with the bike there. I'm imagining wall/garage door hitting bike and that being a bad combination. So hopefully, fingers crossed, this will work for you.
I hope so as well. Please do write in to let us know, Bob, that is working. All right. Somebody named Rose, perhaps also ends in Mary and Orchard, writes, how can I create a smart list in reminders for everything with a due date or everything at a location? Somehow I think you might know what the person is asking. Can you tell us what this person was looking to solve?
Yeah. So I was attempting to try and find all of my reminders in the Reminders app that have got a location assigned to them, because you can see there's today, there's scheduled, there's all reminders. I've got my different lists. I could see things that are assigned to me, but I don't have an easy way here in the Reminders app. Of course, I can do this in Shortcuts to just get all the things with a location attached to them. And I was tapping on add list, nothing happened. Tap add new reminder. Of course, I'm adding a new reminder, and I didn't actually see anything. And I realized, unfortunately, Mikah, it turns out this is a Mac only feature, where on the Mac you can create a smart list in Reminders to find everything with a location. Well, guess which device I don't tend to take with me when I'm going out and about? My 24-inch iMac.
Mac. Yeah,
24-inch iMac tends to stay sitting on the desk here at home. So I don't quite know what is up there. And also, the list I created, it's not synced. I'm not quite sure what's going on. But you can create smart lists and reminders and have them show up. Of course, the other way to do it is inside of Shortcuts, where you can find everything with a location. That's not really the Reminders app, which is what I was trying to solve, because my parents actually wanted me to solve this problem for them. And in the end, I've given them a shortcut on their home screen that they can tap, and it shows them all the things with the location.
Got it. Yeah, that's odd that it doesn't just sort of work on the iPhone by itself.
Yeah, like smart playlists in music sync over to your phone once they've been created, and they will keep updating, but smart lists and reminders don't.
Weird,
I guess something is missing there.
Yeah, I feel like that's an oversight. Hopefully we'll get that corrected. All right, folks. With that, it is time for App Caps. This is the part of the show where we wear caps atop our head to honor our app picks of the week. These are the apps or gadgets we're using now that we want to share with all of you. They may be apps or gadgets we've had for a long time that we think you should check out, or ones that are new to us as well that we're just excited about. In any case, this is the App Cap segment, and it is time. Rosemary Orchard, tell us about the cap atop your head, and then tell us about your pick.
Well, the cap atop my head, I believe, actually came from Paris. I think my parents picked this up for me when they went shopping, when visiting me when I used to work there work near Paris at Disneyland Paris. And it's very warm, it's very cozy, and of course, very fashionable and stylish. But the app that I want to talk about today is not just an app, it's also a little piece of hardware. Yes, this is the Razer Cooler Chroma, because I was having a slight problem, Mikah. My phone was getting pretty warm while I was doing iOS today. I think it's a combination of it being plugged in, me showing it on the screen, and all of the other cool stuff that we're up to. And so I was looking for a solution to try and cool it down. And I know some of the people listening to or watching the show like to play games, and their phone tends to get a little bit warm. And the whole point of the Razer Cooler Chroma is to, cool your device down. So I'm actually just going to hold this in my hand for a moment. I'm going to have to hold it quite carefully, because you wouldn't think this does much, but if I touch the back of my iPhone right now, that's icy cold. And if I touch the back of this is really cold as well. It's like almost painfully cold, which is exactly what I was hoping for. It's so cold. It is amazingly cold. So in the app, because of course there's an app associated with this. So this uses MagSafe technology. So any MagSafe items can just, connect to the back of your phone. It is not a charger, to be clear. This is just a fan to help cool your phone down. So I can adjust things like this fan speed. I'm going to try putting it next to the microphone, see if it picks it up.
Oh yeah, just a little bit.
There we go. That's it on high. And then there's standard, and I'll pop it back to auto. And you can see the current temperature. Of course, I've taken it back off the back of my iPhone, so it's cooled down a bit more now. But I can change the colors as well. So I'll just attach this from my microphone and stand where it got stuck and start at the beginning. So it's got breathing, where it will try and breathe in and out. And you can change colors with all of these. So I can make it into maybe a lovely green color. That's coming out a little bit cyan, perhaps. There we go. Is that the right green? That's really not the right green for you, Mikah, is it? There we go. That's a green. That's a real green.
That's beautiful.
There's also spectrum, where it will shift through different colors and just sort of fade one to the next and so on and so forth. There's static, where it's just on whatever your favorite color is for the entire time that it's on. And so that's attempting to be purple. Lighting in my office is not great. And then there's my favorite, which is wave, where you've got this beautiful multicolor that just rotates around the outside. Of course, you can also, just not bother with any of this. You can adjust the speed of all of these. You can adjust what angle it goes in. You can adjust how bright it is, and so on and so forth. But there's a very important part in the settings, which is there's an auto shut off, and this comes enabled by default. And the auto shut off will shut off when the temperature is less than 10 degrees for 30 minutes. And you know what, Mikah? Today and last week, it actually shut off during iOS today, which meant that my phone got cooled down sufficiently and stayed cool for as long as it needed to be for it to be safe. You cannot adjust the timeout period or the temperature. They've decided what is safe, and they just do that. But this is a great device. It is pricey, unfortunately, at $69.99. But if you sign up on the Razer website, then they will send you a $10 off voucher if you spend $99 or more. However, this alone is unfortunately not going to get you there. So I had to make a little extra acquisition. And this is Snacky Snack. This is Razer's mascot. And the reason why I bought Snacky Snack, aside from being absolutely adorable, is he also got me over the price to get the free postage, and he saves 10 trees with every purchase. So,
oh, really?
Yes, he does. He is an environmentally friendly Snacky Snack. Also, as a bonus, he has a very cute coiled tail, which Velcros on, but then has a pleasant amount of springiness. So, yes. Put it this way, there's sort of a 2-for-1 system going on here. You could get a Snacky Snack, or you could get a Razer Cooler Chroma. The Cooler Chroma is available on Amazon, so keep an eye out. Maybe use Camel to see if you can get a deal. Or if you're buying directly from the Razer web shop and you want to use that $10 off, then you can get a Snacky Snack to balance out your order.
That is awesome. I mean, you just figured out the next thing, like the whole next process of me buying, because there are a few of those little puzzle games that I play that for some reason they're using like Unity, and it's super high quality graphics that don't really need to be there, but it ends up making my phone pretty hot. And this would be perfect for that. And then to get that cute snake as well. Oh man, awesome. Definitely going to be checking that out. All right. The cap atop my head is in honor of the fact that the mask mandates are dropping in this area where we live in Petaluma and the surrounding county. And so my hat is just a blue baseball cap, or as they call them these days, dad hat. And on it, it just says vaccinated. And so it's embroidered onto the front of the hat, and it just says vaccinated. So I can wear this around, and then people can maybe feel a little more comfortable around me because they know, hey, that guy's vaccinated. The app that I wanted to talk about today is an app made by Ben McCarthy. They have an excellent app now that has existed for a long time as a camera app, but is now out with its third version. And it is Obscura. Obscura 3 is now out. And by golly, it is gorgeous. It is simple and beautiful. And it is like, I didn't realize how much I was kind of missing with using, because most of the time I just use the standard camera app, and occasionally we'll go to other ones. But Obscura is beautifully designed and has just the right feature set that makes me very happy. So there are options for having a level in the middle, which is always great, as well as the rule of thirds, which is shown here, and then a histogram. But I can change modes to camera, to, I don't know what mode that is. I think that's where you can make your own adjustments. There's an AR mode for photos with portrait photography. There's live photo, and there's video. And you can see these different options that I have. There are several built-in filters that actually show live, so you can see how that filter changes based on what you are shooting. There are, let me change that back so that it's not on. Okay, and then there's, of course, the option to change the different camera, be it the wide-angle camera, the telephoto camera, or the standard camera, and then white balance, which you can set to auto, or you can lock it in. And then there are even more options here for the different types of white balance that are available by standard on most cameras. And then some adjustments you can make to the color in particular. So each of these sections has its own set of filters based on what you're taking photos of. So you can see, oh yeah, I want to take a portrait. I want to do it that way. And I'll turn that off. And then exposure options and focus options, so that if you are taking a photo of something in particular, you have that ability to set that up as you want to. So I can, for example, choose this fidget cube here, and I can say, okay, set my exposure. Well, actually, let me set my focus first. And you can see as I'm holding that down, it's showing where the focus is. So what I want to do is bring that focus to the fidget cube. I guess I'm too close to it. There we go. Now we've got the focus on the cube itself, and we can set the exposure and then snap that photo as we want to, and it'll pop into the photo library. Now, what's great about this is that there are different options, including taking photos in Pro Raw Plus or standard photos. Let me go into the settings here just so you can see all of the different options we have, including, of course, flash, the spirit level, which I have set up. I like to have the spirit level available. The histogram, you can change how it looks, if it's small or large. What is the primary format, including Pro or Raw. The secondary format, which I have as the high efficiency image capture format. A timer if you want to set that up. The flash, which is currently turned off, but you can set it to auto. Here I've got rule of thirds, but it's this special kind of rule of thirds that Ben was inspired by the moon landing photos, where each of the photos has these little pluses in it that are rule of thirds marks that the camera had built in. So I love that there's sort of inspiration there. Aspect ratio, including 4:3, 16:9, 2:1, and 1:1 if you're taking square photos. So those settings are all available. What I love about it is how much of this is so tappable. I can just reach right in and set up how I want to, what I want, and then take a photo just as I need to. And it's super quick. It has all of those features available, and I think that's what makes it amazing. Obscura 3 is available for $9.99 in the App Store. And again, this is a revamped version of Obscura 2 now with loads of new features with, again, just very tappable, very easily accessible settings and options right there for you to tap on. So check out Obscura 3 in the App Store. Well worth the purchase. And you can learn more. We'll include a link to a 9to5Mac article that talked about Obscura 3 in depth and talked about the new features that are available there. Folks, with that, we have reached the end of this episode of iOS Today. If you have questions or feedback for us, well, we've got a place where you can send that. It's iOStoday@twit.tv. Wonderful place to go to make sure that we hear your feedback, or you can DM us on Instagram, as Marco did, or tweet at us and try to use the hashtag Ask twit.tv/iOS today. I know that's a long hashtag, but that'll help us find it. And so again, email is kind of the best way. iOS today at twit.tv. You can tune in live to watch the show as we record it if you'd like by going to twit.tv/live every Tuesday at 9 a.m. Pacific or 12 p.m. Eastern. That is the time at which we record the show again live. The best way we think to get the show, though, is by subscribing to the show, which you can do by going to twit.tv/iOS and clicking to subscribe to audio or video in your app of choice or service of choice, Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all the different places. The video version of the show obviously will show you more visually, but we do our best to be as descriptive as possible so that the audio version is just as good. Again, you can find all of that at twit.tv/iOS. And now's the time when I mention Club Twit. Twit.tv/Club Twit. What is Club Twit? What do you get? Well, for $7.99 a month, for $7 a month, you get access to all of Twit's shows ad-free. Super awesome. Every single Twit show ad-free. You get access to the Twit Plus bonus feed that has content you won't find anywhere else. That's behind the scenes, special content from the club, including AMAs. I think there was just recently an AMA with Doctor O and JJ Stone. And previous AMAs have included Georgia Dow, Steve Gibson, yours truly. Lots of people there now. All of that, $7 a month, plus access to the Discord server. That is a great place to go and talk to fellow Club Twit members, but also those of us here at Twit. If you're like, what is a Discord server? Well, if you've ever used Slack or you've used Microsoft Teams, then you'll be familiar with Discord. It works a lot like that. It's just a great place to chat and stay in touch with other folks and share lots and lots of GIFs if you have those as well. Twit.tv/ClubTwit, $7 a month. Rosemary Orchard, if folks want to follow you online and check out all the great work you do, where do you go? Where do they go to do so?
The best place is rosemaryorchard.com, which has links to all the things I do online. And of course, you can find me in the Club Twit chat in the Discord. I'm usually in the iOS Today channel. And of course, on Twitter at Rosemary Orchard. What about you, Mikah?
I am at Mikah Sargent on many a social media network, or you can head to chihuahua.coffee. That's CHIHUAHUA.coffee, where I've got links to the places I'm most active online. Of course, check the different shows out we have, including Tech News Weekly. My imminent return to the Tech Guy on Saturdays should be in the next couple of weeks, so I'll be there as well. Thank you all for tuning in today. I hope you do get a chance to head outside and have some fun with those apps we shared earlier in the show. And we will see you next week for another episode of iOS Today. Goodbye.
Bye, everyone.
The world is changing rapidly. So rapidly, in fact, that it's hard to keep up. That's why Mikah Sargent and I, Jason Howell, talk with the people making and breaking the tech news on Tech News Weekly every Thursday. They know these stories better than anyone, so why not get them to talk about it in their own words? Subscribe to Tech News Weekly, and you won't miss a beat every Thursday at twit.tv.